Greetings, prop makers! We are in for yet another exciting adventure, and this week we're doing a coffin. And you already saw the thumbnail, so you know exactly what you're clicking on, what you're looking at. Regardless, what we're going to be doing here is on my Google Drive down below, you're going to find this file. This is how we're going to pretty much set up our coffin. Now, you'll see here, I have got 4 5.5 by 6 fence boards. This whole coffin is based around fence boards. And now what you want to do is you're going to be marking to get everything that you want here. When you're marking this out, the most important part is from the center board, which is nice because you see up here, we have a center spot. You're going to be marked half of that, which is 7 1/4, out to here, 7 1/4 out to here, and then you split the difference, and then measuring from the top, you come down 17, draw a line, then come down the next increment right to the bottom and draw a line. You'll see there's a bit you cut off at the bottom because of just how things work out. But anyways, what this does is it allows you to pretty much, once you have all your lines drawn, you can put in these, which is going to set, this is the base of the coffin. This allows you to set your angles and make sure everything's good and ready to go. Now, a little bit of a fun part here because things are different here. Now, these are fence boards. If you use higher quality wood, you won't have the same warping and twisting and cupping and backflipping problems I had with this wood. So what I had to do is, in my case, I biscuit jointed. And if you're not familiar with what a biscuit joiner is, that is a biscuit joiner. It's really a fantastic tool. All there is you can see down there's a blade. Don't worry, it's unplugged. And what happens is when you turn this thing on and push it in, there's a blade that comes out and cuts an arch in the wood that you're cutting. And this has already been biscuit jointed here. I just want to show you what it looks like. So when you push that tool in, it creates this perfect line here. What you're seeing here is what I use to line up the biscuit joiner. So I make sure that my joints are going to be at the same spot. And then once you've got it, you cut both your biscuit joints at the same point. This is why it's called a biscuit joiner. You cover this in wood glue. You take it, you stick it deep inside of there, like so, and it's going to be covered with glue, so it's going to have lots of friction. Then the second one you take, you glue it as well, and you stick it together, and just like that, you have created a really strong joint. This is a woodworking technique. And I'm sharing it with the prop making world because sometimes these things don't end up overlapping, and you may never know that a biscuit joiner ever existed. So what it did is it allowed me to join all these pieces of wood together, remove the kinks, and make it into a decent looking flat. If you do not have the biscuit joiner, not the end of the world. What you're going to do is you're going to mark it all out, hold it together as best you can, and then you're going to cut down some 3/4 inch strapping. Go across, screw it down. You'll probably want to do 2, one at the top and then one about here. You don't want to go all the way down because you're going to break out the wood. About here would be good. You'll get a screw in there and it won't break it out. Pre-drill them anyways, just with a little pinhole drill to make sure you don't rip apart the wood when you do it. Come across here. I'm going to be doing it most likely anyways, or might not, depending on my mood. Regardless, this is the base, and follow the drawing. This is all just kind of me rambling along saying this is the stuff you can do to make it work and some fun tools to go with it. I'll be back after this is cut out, and we're going to start talking about how we do the angling and assembling the sides because it's not super complicated. Let's be honest, I'm not the first person to build a toe pincher coffin, but mine's a little bit different in the sakes of what I'm doing with it after. I'll be back. All right, as you can see, sides are on. It's really straightforward, so I'm just going to show you what goes on here now. No, it's not this picture. It's this one. On this drawing, you can see that all your measurements are set up to match these measurements on the inside. Now, whenever you look at these measures, they're always to the long side, or the short side. Like on this one here, you'll see the 14 1/4. That one's actually to the short side because it's on the outside. I try to do all the outside measurements, so just pay attention when you're doing all your angles, because on the top of this toe pincher, these are 10-degree angles here, and at the bottom, these are 6-degree angles. It's not a huge deal. You want them close, and all I do is put them in my chop saw and just cut them there. Now, how you attach these sides on. Wood glue will be your friend because what it'll do is it'll give you a lot of strength even when you don't have any. So what you can do is you can either drill holes and put a screw in through the side and make sure you put a hole here too to pull it all together. You're going to fight these fence boards a little bit because they've got cups, they got wobbles, they've got thickness differences. It'll add to the character of the toe pincher in the world, and you stay. And the fact is you're going to have deviation, but the good news is it'll be hidden as you work because you're going to be aging this thing up anyway, so you can just say it was part of the aging. Now, you can see here that I've got one that's not complete. So what I'll do is I'll glue here. I'll glue along that length there, down to the bottom, up. This one will come up like so. And then starting at one end, you can use screws, but what I do is I use my stapler to put in a staple just to hold it in place while I'm working on it. And then we'll go on to the next stage. This is really straightforward on this part here. And, before I forget, there's one more thing. I'll be back. It's here now. It just magically appeared. How strange how that works. So one of the things that I'm going to do is to increase the chamfers on these edges. I'm going to be running my plane along here to take about maybe 1/8 of an inch off of there. I already did it on this one here. And what it does is it just makes it when the boards match up, because this is going to be 2 boards deep. You can make it deeper. I like 2 boards because I'm cheap, and that's exactly, this whole thing is set up to use full boards with almost no waste. Now, once it's all attached, you will be good to go, and you'll see that if with that chamfer on, it'll add a bit of like almost pre-aging because your seams are not going to be perfect, and that's what you're looking for. Anyways, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to get this attached, and then I'm going to be back to show you how to do these corners here and here. In reality, this design barely needs to have extra support. We'll see. I'll put it in because I don't like having no support. Anyways, enough talking. I'll be back. All right, so you can see we've got the back 2 pieces on, and of course these are all cut on the top at 10 degrees, bottom at 6 degrees. I'm going to say it multiple times because it's really important. Now these risers here are put in to give support to these corners. Ignore the route. I just had wood lying around, so I used what I found. Now here, this is cut at the 10 degrees on the one side, and then the other side just matches in. What it does is just make sure you have a really tight fit for when you nail all this together. If you can't cut these at an angle, you can do them straight. Not the end of the world. You know, it just means it just looks a little bit cleaner. And I overbuild everything. In reality, this corner would probably be good without that. Now, this one's more important here. You need to cut one of these at 6 degrees and one of these at 10 degrees. And what it allows it to do, it allows it to match here. Got a little bit of deviation there. My saw was, the saw wasn't not cooperating with me. The wood was uncooperating with me. Stack of 2x4s. I grabbed the one with enough internal spring to it to launch to the moon. So this is cut this way. So when it comes up, the board has something to sit against. Now, if you are not confident about how straight this is, square this line up because you don't want to have this glued. And then only later do you realize that it doesn't fit. And we do the same thing all around. You know, 10 and 6. See, this one's not even attached yet. And down here, once again, this one is 6 degrees on the one side, and it just looks good. It matches up and holds everything together. The reason why we end soon here, these are 9.25 inches, is when I put the lid on, I want to make sure that the supporting wood I put in behind will not impact these. So everything, I don't have to consider these when I'm putting in all of the upper support. Anyways, we're going to continue on. The next time you see this, all the pieces are going to be done. And I'm building a second one of these right now. It's gluing outside my garage. And we will go over how we finish this thing up and how we do the lid, just in case you have deviations. So anyways, I'll be back. So as we can see, the bottom of the coffin is complete with everything in place. Now, because you end up with deviations, not because, you know, I can screw up buildings sometimes. There's nothing to do with that. What you want to do, excuse my horribly messy garage. It's a busy garage, but it's a used garage. So what you want to do now is you want to make another pallet of 4, like not a pallet, but a flat of the 4 boards together. Make sure that it looks good. And then what you do is you take that whole coffin there and then flip it upside down onto here. And what you want to do is you want to use these as your centers. You mark center there, and once it's down and placed, you just take a pencil and draw around it to make sure you have an exact fitting lid for that coffin precisely. So now the only thing I'm going to go do is I'm going to make some catches at the bottom that have to be in 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to go measure the width to make sure that they fit so they latch into the bottom right there and right there on the top. Okay, I'll be back to talk about that, and then we get to do the fun stuff, which is actually making this thing look old. I'll be back. The lid is on. Everything's fitted now. I'm just going to quickly show you on how to go about doing the final fitment on this. So, you can see here, I put cut with the angle at the very bottom, 3/4 of an inch in. That puts it right on that edge there. The second one technically should be up higher. I've got other purposes for this coffin, so this is kind of like a midpoint you're seeing. But you can stop here, and if you do a full one along the top. Don't do a half one like I did. Now here, once again, 4 screws in. This matches up exactly just to hit the edge of the wall. And then this top one is just to stop vertical shimmy on this, because I'm going to probably attach it with something to hold it in place. But until that point, I have to make sure that, you know, it's going to at least be somewhat friction fit, so when I stand this thing up looking at like some sort of doofus going, hey, isn't that pretty, that it doesn't fall apart on me. Regardless, come back after the next part if you want to know how to do the tea staining, which is going to be where we're going next. But next, I'm doing some aging on this, and I'll bring you along for the ride regardless. But if you just want a plain pine coffin, you're done. Congratulations. If you're not, if you want to go further and we're making it into this a full-blown Halloween decoration, stay tuned for the fun coming along. Woo! All right. We are moving on to now doing the aging on this thing. So you can see down here that I've cut some big holes in my beautiful coffin. What was I thinking? No. I wanted to make it where there's a light on the inside and it's going to shine through these holes. I'm also going to kick open the the lid on this coffin by about an inch, so the light will shine all through there. And you can see I did some holes on the side. There's some more finishing to be done. And as you come up, one of the best parts now is up here. You can see I'm doing a whole breakout where Bones here, who's still helping me, give me 5. Yeah, thanks, dude. He's helping me out a lot here, and right now this is where we are. So you can see now why I only did one little tiny piece up in that top corner there, because I wanted to make sure we could have this hole cut out. And I also did it on the side here as well a little bit. So it just gives it a look like the whole coffin's falling apart. It's really going to come together after. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my grinder to this and start doing a whole bunch of the texturing like I did on my cross in a previous video, which I'll point to up here. But anyways, I'll be back in a bit as I continue to work on this. And Bones will be around too. Thanks, Bones. I need to go over the finish on what I did to this beyond. First of all, I just wanted to quickly say that whenever you want to cut this out with the jigsaw, which is how you take these parts out, if you drill a hole first at the peak of each one of these, it makes it a lot easier that when you cut it all out. Look at that, such a good fit. I'm having trouble getting it out. There we go. So just like that. Now, how I finish this is kind of like a 3-step process. Cut it out first, and then I used a router with a half-cove bit on it. You can use whatever bit you want, but what it does is it allows you to hit the edges. And what you want to do is you don't want to route the whole edge. You just want it to be random to make it look like it's an opening on it without it looking perfect. Adds really good age, but the big thing is it's still completely structurally sound. You know, there's no problem here. Now, the next step I did is you can see here these darker lines. This is very similar to how I did the cross because it's, you know, similar wood texture. Then the final step is we got Mr. Concrete Block here, and I use this to scratch the surface in long lines. You can actually see each of those weathered lines on there. All together, it really comes together and makes a really nice finish that makes this thing look fantastic overall. Now, we're going to go on to the stain here, and I haven't completely decided, but I was going to show in reference to that video right there, it's talking about a tea stain. Now, this here is pretty much pine that I only used a vinegar solution on. And as you can see, that I have left the vinegar and the steel wool almost for 2 weeks. And that is how dark it comes with no tea stain before. And that's just the vinegar. You know, of course I didn't sand it down. So there's always that little bit of the surface that I tried to get off. You can get around this, not the end of the world. But you can see just how nice that tone is. And then this is with the tea and the vinegar. And you can see the two tones. I think I might just go with this one because I like it being dark but not completely black. And I like how that brown looks. It's kind of a middle ground. And then, of course, later on you can do touch-ups with each one of them to make it how you want it. Anyways, I am now going to get into doing all of this finishing and getting this all coated with tea. Or not tea, it just got coated with vinegar. Anyways, I'll be back in like 3 hours because this takes a while and it takes a while to react. I'll be back. All right, a slight change of plans. What I had initially thought I was going to do, I was going to either do just straight vinegar spray or do complete straight tea. And what I decided is to use the higher tannins from the tea mixture to emphasize certain areas like the gaps and the such like that. You can see the side. I just put some extra emphasis on gaps and the such. And what's going to happen now is when I spray this with the vinegar, that's going to darken up more than the rest of this is. And I think it's going to turn out pretty freaking awesome. And looking forward to showing you the end result. I'll be back in a few. All right, we have the finished surface here now, and as you can see the darker tea stains that did more. Where I did no tea, it did it less, and together it makes such a fantastic like look and feel for the overall finish. The scratches all came through really nicely. The only thing I did extra was I used a bit of black wash to splatter over it to give it some more, weathering. Do what you want to make it look that little bit older. And then I just used a small bottle and I ran the wash down these gaps just to darken it up. It might wash off in time, but you know what? It's going to last for years regardless. And if you ever need to touch it up, you can. Anyways, that's it for this video. I'll show you what the overall prop looks like at the end. And thanks for watching. Oh, remember, if you'd like, subscribe, yodel, all that stuff. Have a good one.